Pod.
Rugby Pod.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Rugby Pod, which is the most listened to rugby podcast on the planet. There's been some unbelievable quarter-finals, a bit of drama, a bit of chaos in the URC this week, and there's been some Prem games as well, Jim. So we know the semi-finalists. Jim, how are you?
I am very good, mate. I've been enjoying, if you want to call it gamesmanship, but I had a bit of time on my hands. I got dragged into the chaos which ensued on and off the pitch at the weekend. The Munster fans are fuming, not just the Munster fans. I'm going to say the whole of Ireland are absolutely stinking, because I was getting DMs from Northern Ireland as well. I didn't think they even liked Ireland. So, hey, let's not get political. Let's just leave it there, okay? But Jack Crowley was clearly fuming at the weekend. Loads to chat about with stuff that was happening down in South Africa. But across the whole URC, they mentioned the Premiership as well. But my South Africans, I can't even say it because I'm going to get hated in Ireland, but they're coming good. They're in the final of the URC semi-finals.
Yeah, they are. We're going to chat about it all. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify. James, you're back. I know where you've been. Do you want to tell the millions of listeners about your quick weekend, your stop in Kuala Lumpur with your fucking Birkenstocks on? What are they when you're playing ruggers?
Andrew, do not talk to me about fashion. Skinny jeans went out 4 years ago, and you're
I don't wear skinny
still
jeans.
donning that.
I don't wear skinny jeans.
Well, no, they're not classed as skinny jeans, but they look skinny on you, Andrew. So they're not. But yeah, I want to say fresh off a plane from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, but I'm not that fresh. It was, as you know, someone shat on the floor in the toilet of the aeroplane, and I was sat by the toilet. So yeah, got back from Kuala Lumpur, 3-day trip there. Rob, if I was to say Kuala Lumpur to you, what would be the first thing that comes to your mind?
Genuinely, I can't think of a single thing. I don't know where it was. I don't even know where it is.
I thought you were going to say Madagascar or something. Go on, Andrew. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Beach Bar and the golf trip that I had there about 8 years ago. There's a place called Beach Bar, which is unbelievable. I hope you went, James. Please tell me you went there.
I didn't. I was low-key. I was all business. Not all business. It was one of these business pleasure opportunities, trips, and yeah, I loved it. It was really, really cool. Had a fly-in visit into Kuala Lumpur. And you know, Goode and Rob, because we talk about Hong Kong, and we know that Singapore's got a heartbeat of rugby as well. But there is a throbbing heartbeat in Asia and in Kuala Lumpur. First time I've been, and it was brilliant. And they were asking for you, Goode, when we were there. Rob, a few people asking for you as well. What's he like? He sounds like he's a bit miserable. And I was like, no, that's him. That's just not finance. Yeah, that's just him. That's not finance. That's real. That is roadman shit that is happening up north with Rob. But yeah, it was really cool. We're going to go back there and do a gig hopefully next year, mate. So thanks to everyone in Kuala Lumpur for having me.
We knew last time we did the podcast, last week, you were heading off to Benidorm for a stag do. How was it? Any stories to tell us from Benidorm? I mean, who goes to Benidorm on a stag do? What a shit place to go.
Northerners do. They do. It's cheap. Come on, Rob, hit us with the headline.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, is that bad?
You got to give us something new. You can't do that, Rob. No. What you can't do? Like, do you love your kids more when you come home? Did you buy a Toblerone at the airport on the way home for guilt? Like, what happened?
Yeah, did you buy any guilt presents?
Yeah, they had 2 key rings for €30. That's how vulnerable I felt. Carnage. I can't even repeat it. One lad was generally in Spain. He was in Spain for 10 hours, and then he was back in Stockton again.
Why? Did he get summoned home?
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh my gosh. All right. Rob was in Benidorm. I was in Kuala Lumpur. Were you with Bracey on Friday night in Glasgow?
Yeah, we were. We had a few beers, me and the Brace, and ended up in certain places that I've never been to and I'll never go to again. But yeah, it was good fun, mate. It was very good fun. And then came home and had a weekend with the family. So no more to discuss. Bracey was very professional, and that was it, the end.
In the establishment that you were in, was he screaming to the people that are in that establishment, use it?
He was there
use
going,
it!
and use it! Yeah, he was.
With a scream.
Yeah, I was doing it from another booth to him. And use it, Bracey!
Oh, gosh. And we jest and we segue. Hell of a weekend of ruggers. Look, let's get into it, mate, because it'd be pointless us starting talking about #AlwaysEdinburgh or even Glasgow to a degree, who dusted up the Stormers. Let's go straight to the drama in Durban. And look, I've been off social media loosely, especially on X. I just came back on. I was on the plane. I came back on. And somehow I've been brought into the storm. And I didn't know how I was brought into the storm until I saw your tweet saying about the shithousery. And we can talk about what happened. But that's why I then walked into the storm. Because I was like, you sent a tweet. Then someone started tagging me saying, "Where's your shithouse mate Jim?" Like, I was like, "What?" I was like, "I'm in on it." I didn't really know what happened because I was going to watch the games back, and then I watched it, and then I'm loving it. So, Andrew, give a bit of context, mate, because you're better at the details, and I might just skim through it.
So, Sharks were playing Munster in the quarter-final over in Durbs, and for a bit of context on the game, the Munster boys were flying. I think there was something like 21-8 up or something like that. And then the Sharks boys fought back. It was a bit of a drab game, right? As you know, having been over to Durban a few times, having lived there, humidity was something like 70%. So there was knock-ons. It was a slow game, and all that drama around it. Some big performances from the Munster boys, but it ends up going to extra time. Sharks score 2 tries in the last sort of 20 minutes, and then step up Conor Murray with my massive spuds. He kicks a penalty with a couple of minutes to go 24-24, take it into extra time. Then there's a war in extra time. It's just pick and go, a kicking battle, 10 minutes each way. The boys are out on their feet. And because there's the try difference, so both teams, I think, scored 3 tries in the game. Because all the things leveled up, they go to a penalty shootout. And you pick your 3 best kickers. Sharks bring on Davids with about 20 seconds to go because they know it's going to kind of penalties, and they've got their 3 kickers in the Hendrikse boys and Davids. And then the Munster boys, it was Conor Murray, Jack Crowley and Scannell. And it goes to 3 kicks on the straight in front of the posts, 15-metre line each side. So everyone takes one of those, you pick your slot, and then you move it back to the 10-metre line. It's 6 kicks overall, right? So unfortunately for Munster, Rory Scannell misses his first one, hooks it to the right of the post, left-footed kicker. So Sharks had the edge. But the shithousery starts with Jaden Hendrikse, who is kicking from the middle of the posts with Jack Crowley. Slots the first one. And then he says to Jack Crowley something. I think he said something like, "Mate, you're a 40% kicker." Tried to trash talk him and shit talk him before Jack Crowley's first kick. So Crowley's slotted it over. Then he's pointing the finger, giving him loads. Mike Adamson's trying to sort of diffuse the situation. And he says, "We won't have any of that." Obviously, just a bit of trash talk, whatever. And then it goes back to the 10-metre line. They go through the kicks. It gets to Jaden Hendrikse, who's kicking first. He slots it from in front of the sticks on the 40-metre line straight through, and then mysteriously goes down with cramp right next to where Jack Crowley, who was going to step up to kick his attempt, and he was in the way. And actually, Mike Adamson I think he made it worse, really, because Jack Crowley was like, "I'm fine, I'm just going to kick it. He's not my way, I'm going to kick it." But Mike Adamson was like, no, we're going to stop it. And Jaden Hendrikse is doing it. Whether he's got cramp or not, he's doing it just to put a bit of heat and a bit of pressure. Like goalkeepers sometimes do in penalty shootout in some football. He's trying to do the same thing to Jack Crowley. Lying on the floor, loads of Sharks management run on. There's a few people that probably shouldn't be on the pitch getting involved, saying something to Jack Crowley, and Jack Crowley just wanted to get on with it. Anyway, turns out he slots the kick anyway, but just before he slots the kick, he's having to wait, and maybe his nerves are growing a little bit, and Jaden Hendrikse just winks at him.
It wasn't a wink. He had something in his eye. I spoke to Jaden and spoke to Eben last night. It's just something in his eye. So I'm joking. Yeah. I'm joking.
So, talk about eyes. Eben couldn't see out one of his because he had an absolute shiner. But it was, people got mad about it. I just put it out there. It's like, that's a bit of shithousery there. I don't mind shithousery. But it's all kicked off everywhere, basically, because Jim Hamilton is defending his South Africans and his Sharks.
No.
And it's all gone mad.
I wasn't even involved. I weren't involved in anything. I was flying back, not knowing that someone was going to defecate all over the floor on the plane. I was chilled. I was looking forward to getting home. And then my phone's popping off and someone's tagging me but in a way in which I'm involved, like I'm going to be, I think, quote unquote, bumming the South Africans anyway, and on their side. Some of the comments, and I've never seen anything like it, and I had to put something out, and I try not to be negative, and it wasn't negative, but when I looked into it, and I saw some of the comments around Jaden, and most of them were from Ireland, I'll be honest. I just said that I thought it was shocking, but I say most of them from Ireland, that's harsh. A lot of them were from Ireland naturally because I know that there was a lot of emotion involved with this, with Munster, with Peter O'Mahony's last game, Colin Murray's last game. And so I understand the emotion, but a lot of them were like media outlets as well, people who publish good content throughout the year around rugby and just crazy stuff, just saying like, yeah, like almost like aggressive towards like Jaden Hendrikse in that situation. And I just can't get my head around it. I genuinely can't. It's not me. I love Jack Crowley, by the way. I'm a big Jack Crowley fan. I don't even know Jaden Hendrikse. I've got no affiliation to him whatsoever. So I'd side with a Jack Crowley. And I just think, firstly, when I looked at that initially, great, building up jeopardy during the game. He's gone down, whether or not he's got cramp. Rassie thinks he's got cramp, but we know Rassie's a good editor as well on the videos and stuff that he can do. But look, who are we to say he's got cramp? And then people are saying, well, why is he getting a hamstring stretch? Like, they ain't got a fucking clue. They're stretching his hamstring because he might have cramp. He might not have cramp. I think he's got cramp. You might not think he's got cramp. Okay. What I don't like is the kind of the racist comments that were around it, and I suppose the nastiness around something that's so little in the game. And I don't know whether that's been enhanced because Jack Crowley then started kind of shouting, because he's high energy, right?
Yeah.
Like the game, it's a knockout game. It's an end of an era for Munster. It's a massive game, a massive moment. But I love that. I love the booing when the kicking was going on in the lead up to that, like building up the jeopardy. The Ireland-South Africa beef that has unfolded over the last few years, this is all positive. What's not positive is people going onto social media. It happens in all other sports, right? But this is our sport, okay? And this is our platform. And my social media handle is my social media handle. So I'm allowed to pass opinion. Like, do I agree that Jaden should have gone down? I ain't bothered. If I was in the game, I probably would have shouted at him, calling him a shithousery, because you're that passionate and it becomes that tribal and that important. That's my point in this. And I think that you look at the comments, it's undeniable, right, Rob? I know you've had a look at a few of them, and I screenshot a few that I'm not going to read out on here that were coming into my inbox and my DMs and stuff like that. It's just out of order. And I don't know where that kind of, I suppose, like the aggression and nastiness has come from in our game. But for me, I'm looking at it as a positive because our game is growing now. And it's growing outside of your traditional rugby audiences. And with that, you get a few see you next Tuesdays coming through. So there's no part of that apart from a little bit of the aftermath where I'm like, that's negative. Like, grow characters of the game and all that. He's the villain, right? You need villains in that. Eben Etzebeth is a villain. Richie McCaw was a villain in his own way. I was a villain in what I did. This is a young scrum half who goes down. Like, if you were to break it down, okay, he's taken a kick, right? He's had a bit of words with Jack Crowley in the lead up saying you're a 40% kicker. Love it, right? He's taken his kick. He's gone down. He's got cramp. He's in the way. He's been asked to move. He ain't moving. And then him and Jack Crowley have a few words and then he winks. And people have got an issue with a wink. I'm like, what? You got an issue with some lad winking at one of the other lads on the floor? What? This is great.
I think it was the amount of time it took. He was on the floor for, I think it was 2 minutes, wasn't it? So that was 2 minutes before Jack could take his kick. And Jack Crowley, give him his due, said to the referee, Mike Adamson, it's fine, I'll take it from here. Why didn't he just say, go on, mate, you crack on?
Yeah, I agree as well. But if he's down for 2 minutes, 10 minutes, I mean, who are we?
Where's the stretcher? Where's the stretcher when he needs it? Get the stretcher on. Get him off.
It's a bit of cramp. Drag him out the way. Rob,
what did you think seeing that? So as a rugby fan, as a traditional rugby fan, be honest. So I've not even got Goode's views on it. I had a feeling that Goode weren't happy about it, but this is like Goode is one of the biggest shit houses we know.
Hey, hold on. Mate,
honest man.
It didn't bother me. I just said that shithousery. Like it.
Yeah, okay, that's
it is
good.
what it is.
So,
I didn't go, red card him or something like that. Like Mike Adamson could have handled it better, but it's a penalty shootout. He's playing the shithousery card, isn't he? Winding.
Okay, love it. So that's what I mean. So love it. But I know we've got a big Irish audience, and This isn't meant to take sides with South Africans or Ireland. When this all comes out, this is a positive thing, right? Because it builds up the narrative and the jeopardy and the beef between the two teams. But as a rugby traditionalist, Rob, do you understand why Irish fans are getting so angry? Like, not just passing opinion, like they are absolutely livid, some of them.
I can get it because I think similar to what happened in the Champions Cup final, I think it went from being shithousery and stuff that we all love, like stuff you lads did, stuff that Peter O'Mahony does. It just went that little bit too far. I felt with the cramp thing, laying in the way, and then how it was dealt with. Imagine. So it was actually fine because he kicks both of his kicks.
Yeah.
But the first one he shanks as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But if he misses any of those kicks, then imagine the fallout from, he waits 2 minutes and then he misses because of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just don't think it was handled very well. I love the shithousery. I love the fact that we're all talking about it. But I just think, like, as we're moving into this new, these new places where there is stuff going on and there's stuff outside the game that we're talking about and building these rivalries, I do sometimes think that a bit of common sense maybe from the officials, maybe someone gets in Mike Adamson's ear and says, look, tell them to scoot over a bit and let Jack take his kick. For me, I felt like it just went on a bit too long.
Well, but that's what I mean. You think about other stuff that's happened, right? Around Johnny Sexton, for example, going up to the referees after games, the way that Peter O'Mahony has conducted himself and some of the things that he said. And this is just an example. I've done it myself, so it's not me saying, look at what they've done. You can't then on one side say that is not play on, or that's ridiculous, or it's shameful, or whatever it is, and then you've got Johnny Sexton, who's one of the greatest players of our generation, shouting at referees and stuff that's going on at halftime in changing rooms. Like it's. Do
you not just think it's sort of borderline? So like what a lot of rugby fans love about rugby as opposed to football is the football has the play act in it, has the diving, and that's something that I don't watch football, but it really irritates me when I watch football is the diving. So when you see that in rugby, it's like, I don't like that. I don't like people pretending to be hurt. Whether he was hurt or not, I don't know.
But that's what's creeping into the game, isn't it? And I said it last year, I've said it this year, all about the headshots. Like boys holding their heads left, right and centre, whereas 5 years ago, you wouldn't have even dreamed of doing that. You just got up and it's gamesmanship, right? And as the game has got more professional, as there's more cameras on it, as there's, ways of getting those 1% victories, little parts of the game, every player will push boundaries on that now. They're coached that way. They're told to be that way. Maybe not to the extent of having cramp just before and then giving a wink, but it wasn't even that bad. Like the thing is, Jack Crowley was like, I'll kick it anyway. I'll go now. He's not in my way. And then Mike Adamson stops it. But the fact are, you said it then, Rob, he got both kicks. So imagine the fallout if he'd have missed it. But the one they missed was Scannell, which, his 200th game, he felt sorry for him. And, ultimately, there's nothing that really has gone on. There's a wink, there's this, there's, a bit of trash talk, a bit of shit talk. Everyone's done it. But Jim's point is the most important point. All the helmets coming online and throw in, whether it's a racist comment, whether it's an abusive comment, whether it's a comment that they want to harm someone. That is what we don't need in the game at all.
Let's take the negativity bit out of it. We're all talking about rugby. It was a great game. I love the shootout element to it as well.
It was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was exciting. It's really exciting. Yeah, and some of the banana kicks that were going over as well. It was cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though, and what I can't get my head around Jaden Hendrikse. So Jaden Hendrikse, you look at his lid, look at his beard, right? Not well kept. And then you look at his brother, Jordan Hendrikse. Polar opposites really in how they look, but there we go. That's just me being a bit picky.
Andrew, here's a question, and Rob, because I know you put a question out on social media about asking the followers whether or not it's play on or not. I know it was a 60% in favour of not being play on. This is the one that you should put out. If the Sharks make it to the final, and if Leinster make it to the final, will the Munster fans be supporting Leinster or they'll be supporting the Sharks? I'm just putting it out there.
That's a great shout, James.
There you go. I'm just putting it out there.
Why are you saying if, Jim? Do you fancy the Glasgow boys to get it done?
You know what? I don't really know what to say. I don't look at Andrew nodding because he's all Glasgow now because he was on Premier and he was up there with them. He's feeling it. If this was 2 years ago, Andrew would be like, he wouldn't even, he'd be like, even if he thought Glasgow might win, he wouldn't entertain it just out of principle. But you know what? Looking at where Leinster were at the weekend against Scarlets and Leo Cullen for the first time, there was a Delia Smith about him.
Where are you?
Where are you? Let's be having you. You know, there was a cry for the fans. And look, the Irish fans are going to hate me because I'm going negative again. And I promise you, I'm not going to mention Geordie Barrett, RG Snyman and salary cap. I ain't going to mention it against the Scarlets. I ain't going to do it. They're at home. Again, right? In the Champions Cup semi-final, in the URC quarter-final, in the URC semi-final, and then if they get to the final's in Dublin as well. Like, for me, I just, it's like you've got everything you want, but there's cracks happening in Leinster at the minute. And I think the semi-final for me has clearly burnt them, because if you think back before that, they were putting 50 points on teams, 50 points to 0, and they were absolutely dominating it. And I think, and also looking at the lack of fans in the stadium, the Leinster fans, it was all about the Champions Cup. And if they won the Champions Cup, then they'll bolt on to winning a double. Yeah. And I think now they just seem to have down tools. So Delia Smith wants them there for the Glasgow game, and he'll need them as well. Leinster will need the fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going back to the Scarlets game, it was a clunky performance, wasn't it, for Leinster? You know, you only go, and it could have been, you know, they're only sort of 2 or 3 or 4% away from sometimes tearing Scarlets a new one. You know, if they score the try just before half time when it ends up being a Scarlets try because the ball goes to Prendergast, he's not expecting it, Scarlets hack it the length, and then Blair Murray scores under the sticks. Like, it was that summed up their performance, really. Always had enough to win, but made a load of errors. But you're right, Jim, when you're talking about Leinster fans, and I don't know whether this is a consequence of playing all their games at the Aviva, but if you're a Leinster fan, like, going to the Aviva is special. Going to, you know, knockout games at the Aviva or international games, and it's just now become we play all our games there. And I think the final is going to be at Croke Park if Leinster win their semi-final, because they've earned the right to have it the way the URC is set up, being number 1 seeds. So that might bring a few more in because it's a different stadium, but it's same old, same old. They're playing every game at the Aviva at the minute. And, you know, the Leinster fans are voting with their feet effectively because they're devastated at losing the semi-final. And we had the conversation last week around, would Leinster have beaten Bordeaux in the Champions Cup final? Who cares?
Biggs asked the question.
I know, yeah, but who cares? Like, they weren't there, so they don't even deserve to be in that conversation. But I expected them to absolutely hose the Scarlets, and not disrespecting the Scarlets, just as a statement of where they're at. But like Jim said, there's obviously scar tissue there from knockout games, losing in the Champions Cup, the semi-final this year, the finals previously. I tell you what will heighten their senses and sharpen the minds is how good Glasgow were on Friday night, right? And how dangerous this Glasgow team are. Because, you know, they put 50 on them or 40 on them or whatever it was in the Champions Cup knockout game. The quarter-final, wasn't it? But this Glasgow team are a whole different outfit to what rocked up there. You know, Sione Muktuapolotu's back on fire. Carl Rowe was on fire. Carl Stain was on fire. Tom Jordan, I think I fell in love with him on Friday night watching him play. He is making breaks, sitting boys down, like, wonderful play. He's off to Bristol's next year as well, by the way, which is a hell of a signing. But this Glasgow team are going to pose a significant threat for Leinster, and nothing will sharpen your mind like getting knocked out in another semi-final at home. And so you expect that's why Leo Cullen's going to town a bit with his Delia Smith moment. He's also having a pop at referees, saying refereeing decisions in knockout games has cost them against Saints and the Scarlets. And I'm like, basically, they're just throwing shit everywhere and hoping something sticks and hoping they find a performance, which we'll all be watching on Saturday, trying to find out what's going done and whether the Glasgow boys, who are going to go over there confident of how they're playing again now, who, like, Glasgow have been underwhelming for the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? After getting hosed by Leinster. But all of a sudden, they get a few boys back, as they did at the weekend, and they're a whole different outfit. And it's all built around Sione Tuipulotu and how bloody good he is.
So a couple of things on this just to finish around that. Donncha O'Callaghan, and this maybe answers the question whether or not Munster will be following Leinster if they do make it into the final. He called them rudderless, aka udderless, and like a Ferrari spreading silage.
Silage.
Okay.
Silage.
Where I'm from. Okay. I didn't know whether that's oilage or silage. Okay. So big shout out to Donncha O'Callaghan.
James, it's basically shit. It's basically whoever did it in the box in the airport. On the aeroplane, sorry.
I know who she was as well. I saw her going in. So I know. If they need me to identify, I will. But you know what? Donncha O'Callaghan, big shout out to him. Like, he's a legend, by the way. Doesn't age. He's like Benjamin Button. Or is that the other way around? Is that someone who ages quickly? I can't remember. But yeah, like he does a good show with Tommy Bowe, and I love their interaction. But that's a big statement, right? To call Leinster, and maybe he's putting pressure on them, calling them rudderless. You know, it's amazing how it's not amazing. It's great, and it's what happens in sport. How quickly you can see just something just be like completely go in the opposite direction. I go back to it. Leinster were flying. They put 50 points on Glasgow. Who else did they put 50 points on?
Harlequins.
They
chucked the towel in. Quins chucked the towel in ages ago, though, didn't they?
they actually did. I can't believe Danny Kerr kicked it out. Is he retiring, by the way? But you're right. Just on Glasgow, I know you were there and the weather was out, but the way they want to play, big shout out to Horny Horn, George Horn as well.
Amazing.
You mentioned Tom Jordan. Actually looked at that performance, and this isn't me saying that Elliot Daly shouldn't go because I know why he's gone. But for me, Tom Jordan, like,
how good
is a brilliant. He's a brilliant. He's playing 10.
Yeah.
Right, in a knockout game.
He's got to be first reserve, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll be there. And also, you mentioned Carl Rowe, but Carl Steyn as well. They're starting to get the boys back together. Scott Cummins was firing. Rory Darge got man of the match as well. So there's a load of shout outs in that game. And you actually unpackage Glasgow and you take out the Scotland thing and the chokers. They won the URC last year. They did it the hard way. They went to South Africa
Knockout
and they
Kings.
did it the hard way. It's a similar thing to the Northampton thing the year before in the semi-final where they lost to Leinster. You're better for it. And it's only a few weeks ago that Glasgow had their pants literally pulled down. But like you said, Sione Tuipulotu, he looked good, didn't he? He looked like it's taken him a couple of games to get back. They get Hugh Jones fit. I don't know where he's going to be at, but some quality world-class players and the current URC champions. So I can't wait for that one, pal.
The Bulls then, they looked impressive after a bit of a shaky start against Edinburgh, didn't they?
21-8 after half an hour. Edinburgh were flying in the heat of Pretoria, and I thought it was going to be tough for them going down. They've been up and down this season, and they fired a few shots, but the discipline for Bulls was poor. But as you can imagine, Edinburgh were leading 21-8. The fight back from the Bulls and the physicality, and yeah, just getting in the wider channels. It was decent weather. Ball was starting to stick, and they just had too much for Edinburgh. But I was impressed with Edinburgh.
Yeah.
To be fair, they came out there and off the back of the season they've had, they could have rolled over. They didn't, but they just didn't have enough. And that was always the worry. It's the power game from the Bulls. But, you know, the Bulls are going to play the Sharks. And I think the good thing about, well, for them specifically is the lack of travel. So the local derby that they've got there. But it would be worrying for the Bulls getting 3 yellow cards and going that far behind. If you do that against the Sharks, I can't see you coming back.
Yeah, I suppose the interesting thing on it, and everyone talks about the altitude and the effect that has on it, and you saw it from Edinburgh. They started so well, didn't they? I was actually really impressed with Ross Thompson at 10. He scored a couple, but then they say after 30 minutes your lungs are falling out your arse sometimes, altitude, and then you look at how the game panned out. They score, and it's then, you get to half time, and it's then hard to re-go again for the opening 10 minutes. And that's where the Bulls' strengths were. They scored 5 tries from 10 minutes before half time to 10 minutes after half time, that 20-minute block, which was, they hit them fast and furious. You could probably argue one of Villy LaRue's passes was about 3 meters forward that led to a try, but don't worry about it. Adam Jones, the ref, was about 40 yards behind. So I shouldn't say that, James. I shouldn't say that.
He's a big old unit, isn't he? He's a big old unit. Bless him.
But then in reality, like, the stronger, more powerful team won. And yes, the Bulls had some discipline issues, but Edinburgh put up a hell of a fight. And altitude ended up, I think, being the difference. And, you're looking forward to the semi-final this week. The Bulls are at home again against the Sharks. And that, Jim, you know this, it's a mega rivalry. I've played in the game, right? the Bulls and the Sharks genuinely hate each other, like massive rivalry. It's obviously, a very kind of Dutch base in Pretoria against, the Sharks team that's, more of a mixed South African side. And the reality of it is they absolutely hate each other. So that'll be spine-tingling to watch. Imagine the physicality. Like, you're a physical man, Jim, but when you see those boys going at each other on Saturday in that semi-final, like Ebenezer, he ain't taking a backward step, nor the Bulls boys. You look at some of the big units, Marcel Coetzee in the back row, Van Heerden the second row.
Honeycomb.
Yeah, Cobus Visa as well. We know how much of a big unit it is. They are going to be eating steaks all week, licking their lips and just going after each other. So the Bulls look good. Bulls look, they've got a few discipline issues, but you probably back them at home with... I thought the Sharks looked fairly average at times. They took a lot of their bigger players off as well, didn't they?
Well, yeah, Mapimpi made a few mistakes as well around the wing and, with a couple of the kicks that went through. But that has been the Sharks this season, hasn't it? It's been one trying to field their very best players. Yeah, it's a hard one to call because of the history there. And, but you think of the Sharks players that they've got, Ebenezer, Sia Khaleesi, just to name.
They should be better than they are.
Mate, they should be. I tell you now, Sia, Eben was good. Sia... and I've probably been a bit harsh saying this, non-existent at times in that game. Comes off, Buthelezi comes on, does really well. Really impressed with Nkunu as well at hooker. He comes on for Bongi and Banambi. Oxenche comes off, Vinnie Cott comes off, and they empty their bench with much lesser names, the Sharks do. And Mbata at hooker, who came on as well. These boys actually rocked up physical, massive units and looked better than the Springbok players when they came on. So really interesting for John Plumptre as coach, what he does. I've got no doubt he was going to go fully loaded and pick all his Springbok boys, but they've got to step up because they, I've said all year they're a knockout team, right? Because of the obvious things that Jim's just said around the ability to play these boys week in, week out or get their best team out there. But they need to find a proper performance because... the Bulls at home and that rivalry, it's going to be tough.
Right, lads, quickly then, who do we think makes the URC finals?
I don't know how Leinster lose, but I said that against Northampton. I don't know how they lose, but then I'm looking at their performances over the last couple of weeks. Where are you? Let's be having you. There's a few cracks, a few injuries.
Say it, James. Back your boys.
Okay, yeah. I reckon Glasgow. I just got a feeling. And I wrote Glasgow off last season. I didn't think they'd win the URC. And I actually wrote them off this season as well. I didn't think that they would be as good. And they haven't been as good consistently as they were last year. But they're coming good. And I saw that at the weekend against a South African team, the Stormers, and what they did last year. But Leinster's their bogey team. I don't know if you've got the stats, Rob, on the last time they beat Leinster. But Leinster is a team similar to Scotland Island, right? That's the team that... They've got to do it at some point. Right, F it. Glasgow.
There you go, Jim. He's backing his Scottish brothers. I'm going to go opposite. As much as I love Glasgow, I've had a couple of good nights out there this year now. I'm going to go with Leinster by 7.
And which South African side meets them in the final?
I've got a feeling the Sharks do it. For them reasons that Goode said, the fact that they have been up and down this year.
They actually beat the Sharks beat the Bulls in Pretoria earlier in the season, James.
I'm just going to go with the Sharks. And people are going to be thinking, because you played in Durban and you love Marco, you love Eben and Sia. I've got to pick one. You know what I mean? If I could pick a profile of a team, what to look like and play like, it'd be like the Bulls. Like horrible, gnarly, don't speak to anyone, like Bakis Botha style, Victor Matfield in the row, the icons. But I've just got a feeling that the Sharks are going to do it. Called at the beginning of the season, won the Challenge Cup last year. We had a feeling they might do well in the URC. So, yeah.
I'm going to go Sharks by, it'd be close, Sharks by 5.
Well, not to be negative, I don't know what you lads thought, but I felt like this weekend's last Prem round was a bit underwhelming, really.
Oh, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob.
Yeah.
So I love the Prem, but I just felt like, everyone, every home team, you kind of knew who was going to win. Everyone had the advantage. None of the teams that needed to win were playing each other. I don't know, it just felt like a bit of an anticlimax. And I don't know how you work that out in terms of schedule, and it's probably for someone that's cleverer than me, but yeah, it just felt like a bit of a wet end.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, for however many years now, the last round of Premiership rugby games has been all kicking off at the same time on a Saturday, so no teams get any advantage of knowing what they've got to do. And years gone by in the Premiership, we've got to it's round 18 now, isn't it? Because it's a 10-team league. But we got to the last round, and there's been jeopardy left, right and centre on loads of different games around who's going to get into the top 2, who's going to get into the top 4. Is there a relegation, which we know is out of the picture now? Is there games around qualification for the Champions Cup? There's always been stuff on it. But this year, and there was still stuff on it this year, right? 6 teams could have got into the top 4. Obviously Gloucester and Saracens missed out, but we spoke about that last week. And, for Alex Arneson and in his interview after the game, the main game really, Quins have chucked the towel in a long time ago. So we knew that Bristol would hammer Quins down at Ashton Gate. So that was kind of a done deal that Bristol would be in the playoffs. And it's great to see Bristol in the playoffs, by the way, because the brand of rugby they play, the story and everything. But then the big thing was around Exeter and Sale, and Sale having to do the hard yards going down to Exeter to win the game to make sure they're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. Because had they lost that, as we'd have seen, Gloucester or Saracens could have overtaken them. So that was a big performance from them. Physical, it got a bit loose at times, but that was really the only jeopardy. Leicester were always going to beat Newcastle at home, weren't they, to guarantee second spot? But it just sometimes pans out that way. So you can't be too hard on the Premiership and ask for something to be changed, because in years gone by, we've seen unbelievable last round fixtures where there's so much on most of the games, if not all of them.
Let's put it out there. Really, the top 3 definitely kind of deserve their place. Well, all 4 teams do, but we kind of thought that the top 3 was going to map out how it was. I think at the beginning of the season, I had Northampton in there instead of Bristol. No, I think you actually had Bristol, did you?
Well, no, hold on, James. Neither of us.
I'm holding.
I listened to this last night deliberately for this podcast.
Okay, let's go through it. I forgot, like I do.
You need to wash your mouth out with soap, James Hamilton. I am genuinely disgusted with what I heard last night on our podcast. Do you know who you put in the top 4?
Let me guess. Okay, so I put Bath.
Yep.
I put Leicester.
Yep.
Sale.
No.
And I didn't put Sale in.
No. Who did you pick instead of Sale?
Don't tell me I said Harlequins.
Yes, you did.
Oh,
you
my
absolute
word.
helmets.
I had no idea that Danny Care was going to retire, though, and he was going to kick the ball out. Did I? Did I?
Mate, your top 4 was Bath, then you said Northampton second, you said Leicester third, and then you said Harlequins fourth.
Oh, my word. Yeah. Well, that's why I am a non-expert. Who did you say?
I said Bath would finish first, Leicester would finish second, Northampton would finish third, and
you said
Sale would finish fourth. I said Sale. And Sale are the form team. I think they've won, something like 10 out of their last 12 games or something. So they've come back from the dead as well. A lot of people
defensively
didn't give them a chance,
poor
did they?
at the weekend, though.
Yeah, on the edge, right on the edge. They got done a fair few times out there. I just don't know whether Leicester have got that ability to get to an edge that easily with how they play. But there you go. You said Harlequins. End of story.
Let's start on Saracens, because the one for me is Saracens, okay? And I didn't think they would make top 4. I actually went even lower down the league because I know and I knew that they were a team in transition. And Mark McCall said it after the game at the weekend. The average age is 24. It's been a tough season for them. And yeah, there's a bit of movement naturally. We'll get into the other news about talks of Owen Farrell coming back there. But yeah, it's been a very up and down season for Sarries. Did they finish 5th or 6th, Rob, in the end? I think they finished 6th, actually.
Yeah,
I think
6th.
Gloucester finished 5th, yeah. So, and that's probably what they deserve this year off the back of that. And I think the one shame in this is that we get to the last game of the season and Bath put out a kind of second string team. And that's what I don't like. And I think, again, not here to kind of solve anything or change anything, but we want to go into the last game of the season and there's fighting for relegation. Who's coming up? Is there a playoff game between bottom and top of the bottom of the Prem and top of the Championship? And there's real jeopardy on them moments. And I just felt at the weekend there was a few not wasted games, but there wasn't that kind of high like the URC because it was knockout. All right, so we get that with the URC, but yeah, it was. There was some good rugby on show like that. That's what I mean. And when I say about summer rugby and all of these things, the weather made a big difference. That's how bad it was. Is that I'm talking about how good the weather was.
So Bristol will play Bath. What do we reckon? West Country derby.
Let us just share, because Rob's asked the question, what do we think about the Bristol-Bath game on Friday night at the Rec in Bath? And this is a West Country derby. This is what it is. I'd say Bath-Bristol, Gloucester-Bath. Yeah, I think Bath-Bristol historically has been a bigger rivalry. What's our mate Pat Lamb said about the Bath the Bath team?
Well, I spoke to Pat, but Pat loves building narratives. I spoke to him at the Champions Cup final, and he was like bullish as anything about beating Bath. And then he said this after their game at the weekend. He said, Bath have lost 4 games this year. Who have they lost to? ? He rhetorically asked, knowing full well that his side had done a double over the leaders this year. So Bristol have beaten Bath twice this year, and without looking into the teams and going back over, so I think it was the Bath Shags that they beat twice, but they've still done it twice.
What else did he say?
He said,
that's the
first thing,
not so juicy bit.
So
Give us the juicy bit.
Then he says, so we know how to do it, and that's what we'll do. We know how to beat them. We have done it in so many different ways, in the rain, the dry, weather, home, away, all of it. And then he carries on. He says, when we came back up to the Premiership in 2018, the supporters at Bristol made it really clear we don't lose to Bath.
Yeah, that's nice.
And we've won.
Loyalty. Keep going.
And we've won 11 out of 14. So we know how to do it, and it's about getting that right on Friday night. Carries on.
Where's the line? Where's the headline?
He says, as far as spend goes, we spend 8th out of the 10 Premiership teams, Pat Lamb explained. Ourselves and Bath are the only 2 teams to be in the top 4 all season, yet Bath have spent nearly £3 million more on their squad than we have. It reminds me of Connacht when we won the Pro 12. So to get to this stage, I'm so pleased and proud of the players. Basically, he's saying Bath spend a shitload of cash. He's doing it with spending much less, and every time they play, nearly every time they play, 11 times out of 14, they beat them. So he has thrown down the gauntlet.
Is it an excuse, or is he calling out the salary cap? I can't work out. I'm just asking what he's doing. Because, again, I think as a podcast, I'd love to get into some of the finances of how much teams spend and how much players get, because that's a big statement, right? And this is something that's been called out all year around the quality of Bath's players and the quality of players that they're bringing in. And it is a fair point from Pat Lamb, isn't it? And look, I think their budgets, from what I've heard, have always been quite lean, even though they've got one of the richest guys in the UK, Steve Lansdowne, who owns their team. But then it's hard to say because they've had Piatow and they've had Semi Radradra.
I was just going to say, Piatow that was paid £1 million a year.
Yeah, I know. But from a kind of salary cap point of view, because Radradra and Piatow were marquee players. But then you look at, and someone called me out on this, and they were probably right. You look at some of the players that they had in their squad, they weren't headline players. But I'd be interested to know what Pat means with that, because if he's saying that they spend the eighth most in the Prem, or the 3rd least, or whatever it is, how much are they spending then?
Yeah,
compared to
3 million less
Bath.
than Bath, apparently. He said 3 million less than Bath on their squad.
So if it's 3 million less, how much is Bath are spending up to the cap?
Yeah.
What does that mean then?
Well, I think it was 6.4. So is he suggesting that Bristol are paying 3.4 in wages and Bath are paying 6.4? But he's also said that Bristol have beaten them 11 out of 14 times and on the double over them this year. So it's the drama, James, that we love. We need a bit of this. Pat Lamb is going after Bath. He's going with his team on Friday night down to the Rec, and he wants to take them down. So it's the drama and the shit talk and the gamesmanship that we love. Build a narrative. You're either going to get your trousers pulled down, or they're going to be pulled up and you're pulling the other team's trousers down. And I love it. I love what he's saying. He's fired some shots. He's spat some stats, and we're going to see on Friday night, aren't we?
Yeah, and they've got some good players as well. Like, this is what I mean. We've mentioned Piatow or Charles Piatow, to give him his first name because he was that good. We can talk about him in a double barrel, but with Semi Radradra as well. But the signing of Bill Matter,
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Bill's at the end of his career now. Edinburgh got the best out of him, and then you see him flying out the line, absolutely monstering people and taking names like Henry Slade as well. But AJ McGinty's the one for Bristol, that with him, they're a different team. I know they signed Harry Byrne and he made a difference when he came, but AJ McGinty's the boy for them, with Harry Randall, England international as well, Van Rensburg in the centre, who's a quality player, and then Ravuvu How good is he, by the way?
Yeah, Vuvu. Big old unit. Try stopping him.
And that's what I mean. They've got quality players and they play this brand of rugby. I can't see past Bath. I'd be very, very surprised. They've been the form team all year and they're on for the, I don't know why I'm laughing. The treble.
It's the Strebble, isn't it? It's the shit treble, so it's the Strebble.
Yeah, it's the Strebble. But I think because Friday night, by the way, in Bath it's going to be an amazing place to play. Fair play to Bath. They're faithful, have stuck with them through the bad times, and now they're getting the good times coming through. Johan van Gram's turned the team around, friend of the show. It's hard to look past when I even name them names and they're looking to the forwards, and I'm like. And then you look at the Bath team, not just the starting 15, the bench, and you've spoken about it before. You've got Will Stewart and you've got Toy on the bench as well, and you've got Benno Urbano, and the back row that they want to put out is littered with quality and internationals, apart from Sam Underhill, who you were right, he got banned. It was a red card.
You said it was a yellow. You said it was a yellow, James.
I'm doing it to take the piss, just to annoy people on here as well. And we spoke about Ben Spencer and Finn Russell, and even without Ollie Lawrence, they've got Cam Redpath or Will Butt, and go on, keep going. Hit me with some names. Will the Muir has been on absolute fire.
Max Ajomo,
since he's come back, has looked absolutely sensational as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to miss a load of names out. They are just absolute quality. And what it's going to come down to them is going to be the mental, I don't want to say the mental struggle, because they got to the final last year and Benno Urbano got red carded. But the pressure's on Bath. The pressure's not on Bristol. The pressure's on Bath. They're at home.
Yeah, big favourites.
They've been the best team all year. And big favourites. And we've been in teams like that, right, where you're big favourites going in. Leinster, we mentioned them in the URC all year. When it gets to knockout rugby, we know that Bristol can fire shots, and they're good enough to put 30, 40, 50 points, 52 points at the weekend against Quins. They can score tries, especially when it's dry.
Yeah.
They've scored 4 tries or more in every match, apart from 2. So they got the Prem record at the weekend as well. So they're going to score. They're basically going to say, for every one you score, we're going to try and score 2. So it's whether Bath can deal with that. You know, if they get a little lead and then Bristol start coming back, and then, like you say, Jim, they start thinking about the final last year. And
the big thing with Bristol, we know they're going to score tries, right? But they play loosely, so they concede a lot as well. And this Bath team, we've seen how controlled they can play as well. They can play all sorts of different ways. They can play fast, the Finn Russell way, offload and playing from your own 22, chip kicks, long balls. They can do the lot, but also they can tighten it up and turn a screw on a team where Bristol kind of only know one way. And Pat Lam has kind of alluded to, we've beaten them in the rain, we've beaten them in the sunshine, and beating them home, beating away, because he's trying to change the narrative of that. But, ultimately knockout rugby, and being really impressed with how Bath won the Challenge Cup. I know it was only against Leon and they were dominant, but they didn't win that final by chucking the ball around everywhere. They were really controlled with Ben Spencer and Finn Russell playing in an uncharacteristic way for Finn Russell. But it was effective, and I just think Bath will have too much. I can't wait to watch it, because Bristol are dangerous. Ibitoye on fire. Some of the starter plays off scrums when they're getting boys looping round, Harry Randall, and getting the ball out the back and sort of overshooting numbers down the edge. They're a well coached team, but the one thing, and maybe it hasn't happened against Bath too much, but the one thing that does hold them back a little bit is their complete accuracy and their willingness to just manage games at times as well. And we know semi-finals, they're edgy affairs sometimes, aren't they, Jim? And the smallest and finest moments can change and win or lose your games. And I think Bath just have too much experience of doing that, and the players in their squad for Bristol.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think Bath win, but it'll be close.
The one I'm really looking forward to is Tigers against Sale, though. Some of those matchups are really good.
And that's where the pressure was on for Leicester, wasn't it? The game that they played a couple of weeks ago, where that's probably cemented Leicester's position into the top 2, because Sale were on fire at that point, with George Ford being back in the way that they were playing physically and making a dash for it at the end of the season. We spoke about it. And Leicester winning that game, how they did at home, as basically cemented them in the top 2, and Leicester have been really good towards the end of the season. Load of emotional drivers with Ben Youngs and Dan Cole. Finally, I'm joking. Big shout out to you, Coley. Retiring and with Pollard leaving.
Well, Biggs retired him last
Czech,
week, didn't he? Biggs retired Dan Cole last week. He said he's retiring, and then the next day the news comes out.
Well, Biggs is on the group chat saying, look, told you. What, mate, we could have guessed 7 years ago that he was going to retire imminently. So it wasn't like big surprise. But yeah, so a load of emotional drivers for Leicester, a team, again, unfortunately for them, that are in transition. And like I said last week, I've actually been really impressed with them, how they've gone about their business, still close to the team. Brett Deacon, big shout out to him, what he's managed to do with the forwards. They've had a load of injuries to kind of deal with as well this season, and losing not just Pollard and Dan Cole and Ben Youngs, they're also losing Julian Montoya, who's been captain for them as well. I've probably missed a couple of others as well that are going to be big losses for them. But yeah, I mean, this Sale team, and it was actually, I think, good for them that they didn't play that well against Exeter, and they got a few scares, especially around the breakdown when they went down to a yellow card. And actually, the yellow cards and the discipline is going to be the big thing for Sale because of physically of how they play, the South African influence that they've got in the team around that kind of physicality. If there's one Achilles heel in the Sale team, it could be about discipline. But with George Ford back running the show and some of the quality of players that they've now got playing, and I'm actually going to shout out a couple of the Sale players as well.
It's going to be a physical war, isn't it? Right? The way the South African Sale boys play, and even the English contingent, how physical the Curry boys are. You look at Bevan Rod in the front row, Apoko Fajor as well.
Apoko Fajor has been on fire.
Yeah. Luke Karansicki, the way he loves it. It's going to be an epic battle. Two very contrasting semi-finals, right? And Leicester can go toe-to-toe physically. Yeah, you like Hanro Liebenberg, hard as you like, proper South African, hard-nosed player. Tommy Rafael at 7, Cracknell, old school. He's
been wicked this year
hell of a player.
As well, Cracknell for them.
Yeah, you watch, I tell you, I can't wait to watch Ollie Chesham. When there's a big game for Leicester, you watch him and you see how much it means to him to pull on that Leicester jersey and what he puts about. He's a class player. Montoya leaving, he'll want to leave, leave with a winner's medal effectively. And you go back to the glory days of Leicester Bath were the big two, right? So there's that carrot of, hopefully playing against Bath, if you're a Leicester fan in the final at Twickenham, that'll bring back awesome memories. But, Joe Hayes, big unit, he scores at the weekend. You go through the team. The one lad who's impressed me most all year and hasn't had a massive amount of kind of airtime is Joe Wood.
Let me guess. I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah,
Joe Woodward
in the centres. Like big lad, youngster. Not many people know about him. Him and Kata in the centres have gone really well. And just looking at the centre battle, Kata and Woodward, presuming those two start, because that's the partnership that's been going so well, coming up against Marcy White. And
how good has he been, by the way?
Marcy White,
I think he's the next England 13.
Yeah, Wasp boy. So Marcy White and Dupree in the centres. I think they'll go after Dupree defensively on that corner at 13, and we saw at the weekend what Exeter did to them in the wide channels. Ollie Hassel-Collins was really good again. Radwan's got speed to burn. Freddie Stewart will be Freddie Stewart will be bang up for it. Like, it's going to be mouthwatering. That Saturday afternoon, get the popcorn out, get on the sofa and watch it.
Who do you reckon meets Bath then in the final, if you're claiming Bath are going to get there?
I think for me, Leicester getting the emotional obligatories out the way at the weekend, with Coley coming on the pitch and Youngsy coming on the pitch with the kids, sometimes that can kind of just block a little bit about just getting down to business. And I think that's going to have a positive effect on the team now. It's all out. They're retiring. Now it's the road to the final, right?
Yeah.
And Leicester are a team that have been there and done it, right? With the quality of players that they've got World Cup winners, and they're at home. But Sale is their bogey team. This is a 50-50 game for me.
But you've got to pick one, James. Are your allegiances with... I was going to say, are your allegiances
with Leicester? With
Brett Deacon or Alex Anderson? Because I know you love both men.
No. I love Alex Anderson, but as I say, Deeks was the best man at the wedding. Didn't say much, I'll be honest. Didn't say much in the speeches. Man, a few words, but no one challenged him on the speeches. But look, I'm Leicester to the core. I spoke about Leicester when I was in Kuala Lumpur at the weekend, the relationship they've got. They've got a lot of work to do off the field with what they're doing and bringing in another new coach and everything like that. But let's be honest, if you want to put an emotional driver into it, what a way to see off two absolute legends of the club. You remember Ben Youngs, and you probably do a thing in your Goode, Ben Youngs and Dan Cole have been there since they were kids.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of emotional driver around it. Andre Pollard has been a little bit up and down this season. He's a World Cup winning Springbok. We know he can do it at the highest level. Okay. And they're at home. It just feels like there's this kind of crescendo coming at Leicester. And with Checker, I mean, Alex Anderson the same. They both bring them emotional drivers that they've got. It's going to be, for me, it's a 50-50 game, and I have to pick one. And because of the emotion inside me towards the club of Leicester, I'm going to say Leicester.
Yeah. I'm going to say Leicester as well. I just think the home advantage, what they did a few weeks back to them in the Prem, and as you said, all those emotional drivers, Jim. I think, I'm Leicester till I die, basically. So I'm going Leicester by 8. Go on, you Tigers.
Right, lads, we've got some other news this week.
Oh, it's not just other news, Rob. It's not just other news. It is, because there's some big ones in there, Andrew. It's other news.
Go on, then.
Hit me. Don't hit me. I can hit you if you want. Where should we go?
Should we start with Owen Farrell back to the Prem?
Yeah.
What do you know, James?
Mark McCall doesn't want to speak about it, then does speak about it, but doesn't want to speak about it.
Well, it's right that he does speak about it. I for me, like in these things here, when they're so big, which this Owen Farrell news is so big when it comes to the Prem and Saracens and potentially England and the Lions and all of these things, like it's big news. So I'm glad that Mark did mention it, and because I didn't know, I don't ask questions. I don't like knowing the rumours that Danny Wilson and Adam Jones are going to Wales. I don't like talking about them. Yeah, we'll get onto that. We'll get onto it because of the role that we're in, right? But this is big news. In other news, this is big news because there's been whispers, and I kind of thought Owen Farrell would see out his Racing 92 contract. And I had this chat with my agent. I said, look, a lot of players go to France and struggle. And he was like, no, I said, no, it's not no, they do. Look at Biggs. Biggs has gone there as one of the highest paid players we found out last week. And he's effectively been retired. They've retired him. But Sia Khaleesi, for example, just to name one this season, leaves midway through his contract. So it's a difficult place to go. And I think if you look at Owen Farrell, like he's gone there on a mega deal. All the emotion after him retiring from England, or I don't know if he retired, but he basically like down tools on England and left Saracens to go over to top 14 and play for Racing 92. It was mega news, but he's been injured. And then when he's come back, his form hasn't been, they've been picking Dan Lancaster ahead of him. You know what I mean? This is Owen Farrell. So naturally, I think something was going to happen where either Racing weren't going to be happy or Owen weren't going to be happy. He's high performance. And when you go to France, my point being with my conversation with my agent, high performance can't be number one when you go to France. It needs to be
cigarettes,
culture-led.
Oh, I thought it was cigarettes.
Yeah, there you go. So, well, that is culture. That's the same thing. It's actually the same thing. Yeah. Okay, cigarettes and baguettes. Imagine the frustration for
cigarettes and baguettes. What a statement that is.
Exactly. Cigarettes in baguettes. We did that as well. We ate the cigarettes as well. We just, nicotine, get a bit of... Get the butt in there as well. But look, he's a high performance athlete and he wants to win games. And imagine the frustration of him going in there as much as he wants to try, but also being injured. I think, personally, on Faz, I think Leicester's a better fit for him. And I do wonder if Leicester are having conversations with him about going, they need a 10. The Richard Wigglesworth effect that he could have on if he wants to get into coaching, which is the talk around him potentially coming back to become a player coach. Maybe that's a way around payments. I don't really know, but it feels like the momentum's gathering around it.
Why is it a better fit at Leicester where ultimately he's played all his career at Saracens, Mark McCall's still there, there's coaches moving on, so Kev Sorrell's leaving Sarries at the end of the year. He's a Sarries icon, isn't he? Why is Leicester a better fit?
Because I think for someone like Owen, he's got more to give without being a player/coach, which he was anyway. Like he's always been there. I think he's got more to give as a professional player, full stop. And I know that Richard Wigglesworth was such a success story at Leicester because he did manage to transition into both. But for me, there's not many stories where you hear of players going back to a club and it's like everything works. When Owen Farrell left Sarries, so much changed, didn't it? Like emotionally, it was an end of an era. But let's be honest, like with Sarries, they're lacking an Owen Farrell within that kind of group, just because it's an Owen Farrell, and they've been so used to having such influential players in positions of influence in the game, whether it'll be hooker or the second row, back row, 9, 10.
You count yourself in that second row.
I didn't say that, but you could say myself and Will Scowen had an unbelievable effect on the team. So it feels like it's gathering. But look, Sarri's had to be paid compensation for him to leave and go to Racing. So I imagine old Jackie's going to be like, well, no,
there's $500,000. Yeah, there's $500,000. Leicester can't afford £500,000 to pay Racing. You ultimately signed a 2-year deal, so either Faz has to buy his way out of his own contract, or the club has to come in and agree a fee with Jackie Lorenzetti.
And he goes to Newcastle.
Well, Steve Diamond said even Red Bull money can't buy that.
Where is the Red Bull money,
well,
Rob?
It's coming, isn't it, Rob? What's happening?
In other news next week.
It's coming next week.
We're waiting for Phil Branningham's money first, and then we'll sort that out next.
Waiting for Phil's money.
Basically, Sarries have got to pay some bills still to Newcastle. Dimes wants it. Who else has got to pay? Bath for Guy Pepper. Gloucester as well. They've got to just pay up, lads. Pay up.
Let's be honest, though. It would be cool to have him back, and the Premiership need a player like that to come back because they're losing a lot of superstars, aren't they? So I think from a Premiership point of view, and you know what? Also, an England point of view, you can't count someone like Owen Farrell out of the England mix. You can't. So watch this space.
What's this rumour about Quins then, Jim?
I've heard that Adam Jones, Danny Wilson, going to Wales, announced imminently. And when I heard Adam Jones specifically, I smiled. No better man for the job.
Yeah.
And I've not worked with Adam, played against him many times, been in his company a few times as well. I don't think Wales in that role are looking technically for someone to run attack, run defence, do this, do that. They need a face that fans, players, sponsors, that rugby can get behind. And let's make sure, from a Welsh perspective, if you've got someone like Adam Jones, if the rumours are true, it's just a rumour, should say that, allegedly.
Allegedly. Don't get sued.
Then whoever they fill in the other spots, whether it's a Danny Wilson, whether it's a Dwayne Peel or whoever it is, or even higher above that, I know they've brought in the director of rugby there. They are just as important, if not more important, but I think I know you need an Alan Wynne-Jones or a Warburton or an Adam Jones or a Duncan Jones. Legend, VIP in this case. And when I heard the news about Adam Jones, I smiled because I thought it probably feels about right. I mean, where are Quins going now? I'm just asking.
Whoa, why are you being horrible to Quins?
I'm just asking the question.
You put them in the top 4, James.
Yeah, I know. There you go. They kicked the ball. I didn't want it. I put them in the top 4. They had an opportunity. I didn't want it. Danny Kerr kicked it out. He had enough. He's like, I need an op. I'm done. So, yeah, anyway, that's the rumour that I've heard about that. So there could be more to follow. But I don't want to put the shits up Quins thinking that they're losing their 2 coaches just because Jim Hamilton said it on the Rugby Pod. But allegedly, rumours are.
But that's what Jim Hamilton's saying. So basically, all they've got left is Nick Evans, which he's a very good coach. Nick Evans, just take over. You'll be fine.
Yeah, but it feels like Nick Evans is probably... I'm not trying to retire people.
What are you doing?
I reckon... I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to break up Quins.
They've let you down. You put them in the top 4 and they've let you down. So you're now going after them.
Right, lads, should we finish things up with the good, the bad and the ugly?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll start off in the Premiership. Bristol's Sale and Leicester Tigers get a mention in the Goode for confirming their semi-final playoff spots at the weekend. The Sharks, the Bulls and Leinster all get a shout out as their semi-finalists in the URC as well. Glasgow, back to their best. They're getting an individual major mention for their victory in the quarter-finals over the Stormers. So well done to them. A young whippersnapper making his debut in Tyler Afire. You'll know the name. His dad is Martin Afire, the try-scoring legend from League, but also played for Wasps a bit as well. He scored on debut for Bath at the weekend against Sarries. So a big shout out to Tyler Afire. I'm sure there's plenty more tries where that first one came from. What else was good? Basically, the careers and retirements of a few absolute legends at the weekend. We knew about Ben Youngs' one. He got his last start. Actually, probably last start. I don't want to predict what the starting team's going to be in the semi-final or the final. But last home start in a league game for Leicester Tigers at the weekend, as did Dan Cole, because they've both been used heavily off the bench this year. Also, Mike Brown gets a shout out as well. Hell of a career. Still as angry as ever, but a lovely bloke off the field. So big shout out to Brownie. But the Goode this week, I've got to single one of them out. And I could have given it collectively because they've all been individual legends. But Brownie, Dan Cole, Ben Youngs, they might play again. But one man that will not play again for his club team is my namesake, Alex Goode, or Alex Goode, as he likes to be known. Hell of a career. He's going to win the Goode this week. 17 years at Saracens, 6 league titles, over 400 games, 3 Champions Cups. He won Premiership Player of the Year. He won European Player of the Year. 20 winning England caps as well. I'm going to say he is Saracens' greatest ever rugby player.
Yes, sir.
Absolute legend of the game. Lovely bloke as well. So the reason Alex Goode wins the Goode this week, not just because of the surname, because of that hell of a career. And it was actually quite moving watching him come off the field at the weekend. So shout out to Alex Goode. And that's why Alex Goode wins the Goode this week, gents.
Yeah, you said it all. Incredible player. Incredible.
Yeah. Only a couple of bits of bad, and we're gonna go with the Stormers are going to get mentioned the bad. John Dobson himself said it's the worst performance of the season. They buckled in the second half, so they get a mention. But the bad this week, I don't want to bring more hate from the Irish, but the bad this week is going to go to Leinster and their fans. Only 12,000 of them turned up at the Aviva Stadium in a quarter-final. So they're voting with their feet, James. But you've got some heat from some Munster fans. I love Dublin. We're over in Dublin in a couple of weeks, aren't we, Jim? Again. But 12,000 fans at the Aviva, it looked awful. There's more Scarlets fans there than Leinster fans. I'm joking. But that's what wins the bad this week. And then finally, the ugly, only one bit of ugly. And it's your old teammate, Jim. You seen this?
Give me a hint.
He's not scared of a fracas in a bar.
Oh, Dakes. Dakes has not done anything right. He was in Monaco the other week.
He was at Sarries. Billy Vunipola, he got red carded at the weekend for a croc roll on Boris Parlu. Pretty dangerous. So the end of Billy's season. And that's why Billy Vunipola wins the ugly this week.
Just put him around the neck, Billy. You can do that, apparently. Just don't roll him.
Twist.
No twist. No twist.
No twist.
Quite a few shout-outs to finish this week then, lads.
Yes, we have. Andrew, you go first. I know it's a sad one to start.
Yeah, it is. Massive shout out to a young rugby player from Essex called Callum, who is only 15 and has recently been diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumour. He's on continued rounds of chemotherapy, but his family are raising money to help him get potentially life-saving treatment abroad. The lads from Essex County have been fundraising towards this, so if you can please head to Essex Bishops 15 on Instagram or at Ben_Whitey to find out how you can get involved. They've raised a fair bit of money, but we need a load more as well. So please dig deep and give what you can to help out Callum.
Big shout out to Hillfoot RFC, who had their charity touch tournament on the 31st of May, raising funds for Otchill youths and Scots recovery from childhood abuse. Hopefully I've said that right, with Otchill youths. But plenty of legends have come through the club. Adam Ash, Jamie Barty, and a load more. Details are on the Hillfoots Rugby Facebook page if you want to support.
Yeah. Also a shout out to everyone taking part in the Guinness World Record Challenge this Tuesday, rowing 1 million metres in under 62 hours at Paddington Station, trying to raise £60,000 for kids with cancer. So if you're passing, donate, hurl some support, or even try and give it a little pull somewhere. More details can be found at thanksamillionchallenge.com. So if you're at Paddington, have a look and donate some money.
Yeah, it's another sad one. It's a shout out from Ben Allen for a true hero, Lieutenant Rodri Lasham of the Royal Navy, who tragically lost his life in a helicopter training incident. His actions saved all of his crew. His former club, Cowbridge RFC, are playing Rod Select 15 in a memorial game at Cardiff Arms Park on August the 30th. The proceeds go to the South Wales Air Ambulance. Rod and the boys were huge fans of the Rugby Pod, so if you're in the area, get down and show your support, please.
Another sad one as well. We sadly lost two legends of Middle East vets rugby recently. Mike Burton Bahrain Golden Oldies founder and player number 1, and Tim Bomberg as well, a Ras Al Khaimah RFC stalwart and true golf legend. Massive characters who gave so much to the game over in the Middle East. So raise a glass for them, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And cheers to all of you. I raise a glass to everyone. So thank you for all the shout outs that have come in. But a big thank you, Andrew, to everyone and anyone. Let's show them the love. Go on, Andrew.
Yeah, love it.
Show some love for once. I
always show love. I love our fans. We've got loads of fans. We appreciate everyone's support. The amount of heckles and the amount of pats on the back that we get wherever we go. So thanks to everyone that listens as ever. Do what you do. Follow us on our socials, but mainly make sure you subscribed on Spotify.
That's the one. Rugby Spot.
Spotify pod.